Today, I want to bring you guys something a little bit different. I'd like to take you on a trip down memory lane with me, back to my favorite raid of classic World of Warcraft, the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, or simply AQ40. I'm not going to focus on the lore in this video, but rather recall some stories, funny tales of certain boss mechanics, mounts, and unique things that made AQ40 such a spectacle in the old days of WoW. It really is fun bringing up all the old memories from places like this. Alright, ready to get going here, and the reason I'm in Stormwind is a couple of reasons. Any proper run through Ahn'Qiraj, you want to stop by your bank and grab all your AQ stuff, and I'll show you that in a second. And then, as far as I know, what is the quickest way to get there, which is going to be from your capital city. I got all my stuff in the bank down here. Now, I'm not going to grab it because my character here doesn't need any of it, and I'll go over that in a minute, but if you've ever run Ahn'Qiraj, and you know, this is not a how-to or anything like that, this is just going over it, relating some stories, memories from the place, and the like, you know, like that. And just, I want to do lore videos like separate, but there's tons of good stuff here, trust me, in this video, because this is, I'm going to run through all my memories of the stories of the bosses, some fun facts, maybe a little lore here and there, just stuff as I remember about. Anyway, I don't need any of this stuff. I'll take some of it, actually. But anyone who's run Ahn'Qiraj, you're going to have a bag in your bank full of stuff because you'd go every week and haul all this stuff back. Now, my character here, she has her whole set of the armor, so I'm not worried about the scarabs or idols or anything like that. But I am going to take this. I'm going to show you the quests there, the turn-ins, how to navigate through a dungeon. Of course, talk about the bosses, how to kill them and stuff like that, because you can one-shot everything there, yeah, but there's some interesting story and history there I'd like to talk about, and there is one particular boss which is very nasty even today, and I can't kill him, but I'll talk about that when I get there. So I just wanted to grab, let's grab one of those. This is for a quest at the entrance of the dungeon, and I'll talk about that when I get there. And it's going to require Elementium bars, which I think she has, and I'll talk about that as well. Oh, ingots, sorry. Yes, and she has exactly 3, which is what we need. So we will be able to do that quest. And so the reason I'm going, if I already have all my armor, why am I going? Well, it's fun, and I wanted to make this video, show you guys like memories of Ahn'Qiraj and all the stuff in there and everything like that. You'll see. It'll be fun. And so, yes, the magical rainbow armor of Ahn'Qiraj. Well, if you're a plate wearer, it's crazy rainbow armor. It looks a little better on the casters, but yeah, she's got her set of armor here, and it's going to take, you know, it takes a few weeks to get it. So I'm not going there for that. I guess, if anything, reputation. I was like, rep. So anyway, let's get on with it. So starting from your capital city, the fastest way I know of really to get there, and it's really no big deal because any way you go is going to take pretty much this much time. The best way is to port to Uldum and go there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to grab the portal up here, and I always love the flight on the way in there because it's still cool to see it from the air. I know it's been a very long time, but it's still cool to see it from the air because it's one of those raids like Zul'Gurub that you can see from the air, and I remember seeing it for the first time from the air, and it was cool. So when you land in Uldum, it's pretty much just point yourself. Well, it depends what phase I'm in Silithus. Can I see the... No. Okay, normally you would see right there on my screen, you'd see that huge like spike through the air in Silithus. I am phased to the old Silithus, where there's actually still a zone there. Probably because I was turning in a quest or something. Either way, but yeah, you just point yourself. Oh, her buttons are out of order. I just noticed I was hitting this button. There we go. I was trying to get vigor back. I was probably doing Cenarian Circle quests in Silithus, so I zoned it back to the old one. But yeah, you'll see that big spike in the ground, and you just aim to the left of that, and you can already see Ahn'Qiraj up ahead of us. Yeah, it's cool seeing this place from above. Lots of stuff I want to talk about and remember, and hopefully some of you guys watching this have been through here too, and will remember some of the fun stuff I want to bring up. You know, like, remember this, you know, remember when we had to walk uphill both ways in the snow? Yeah, but like, remember this, remember that, you know? So it's, yeah, obviously very quick to get here from Uldum. So when you get here, oh, lots of fun stuff I want to talk about. Let's see, one of these things, the gong right there, anyone from back then will remember what I'm going to say about that. Now, there's 2 raids here. Here we have AQ, well, this is Ruins, also known as AQ20. We're going to AQ40, aka Temple. And it's up here. Just follow the stairs up over here. What a fun place to go, and there's just so many memories that I have here. Now, one unique thing about this, well, there's a lot of unique things about this raid, and one of those is that the raid has its own mounts. It's a raid that you can mount in, and in fact, this raid has its own mounts, which drop in there. They drop quite a bit, but remember, this used to be a raid for 40 people. So we're going to find, if I have to type battle, it should show up. These four mounts drop in the raid. And of course, you can only use them in the raid. There's 2 exceptions to that. For all intents and purposes, you can only use these within the raid. And that's one unique thing about this. This is the rarest of them, but anyone who's run this place enough has seen all 4 of these drop. They drop quite a bit. Let's go ahead and zone in. The thing is, nowadays, you can ride any mountain here, but I am pretty sure I remember not being able to use regular mounts in here. You could only use those. Oh, in fact, let me pull. Let's drag this. Let's use it while we're here. I'll put it there. The thing about these is, if you get hit, you get dismounted, and that will come into play later. Man, aren't these things just awesome? I love these things. They're so incredible. I wish you could ride them in the outside world. Again, there are 2 exceptions to that. I'll talk about here in a second. Thing with these is if you get hit, you get dismounted, and that's why I'm pretty sure. I mean, if memory serves, you could only use these in here because there's one place in this instance where that comes into contention. So usually you want to ride something else in here because the second you get hit, you're going to get kicked off your mount. See, like that. Now, so these guys are of no consequence to us. My character's only level 63, but even at like level 40 or 30, who knows, you could come in here and one-shot this stuff. I don't know exactly what level you have to be, but you do have to at least, if you're trying to come here at a lower level, make sure that your time walking is off. So those mounts are going to drop, but you can see, yeah, the mounts drop quite a bit in here. I'm going to take this stuff just because, oh, look at that. And sometimes stuff like this happens. Wow, there is a shield that actually don't have the appearance of. Well, you never know. You never know. What does a shield look like? One reason I like running Warrior is because Warriors are great for transmog runs. Warriors are great for transmog runs because they can equip every weapon in the game except for wands. So, you know, they can use one type of armor, obviously, right? Plate. And they can use every weapon in the game except wands. So they're great for transmog because if a weapon drops and, yeah, then you can use it and add to your collection. So what I was going to say about the mounts is there's 2 exceptions to that. And one is regarding the big gong outside I'll talk about in a second. The first person to ring the gong on the server gets the title of Scarab Lord, and they get that special mount they get to ride. And I'll talk about that in a second. And then there's an archaeology mount. It's a aquamarine. Yeah, it's the aquamarine battle tank. There's a blue in here. It looks just like the blue one, except it's called aquamarine battle tank, I think. No, it's not aquamarine. It's called something marine. You guys will remind me in the comments, I'm sure. Ultramarine. That's what it is. It's the ultramarine battle tank. And those are the only 2 exceptions. One's from archaeology, and one is, well, if you're Scarab Lord, then you know who you are, and you have the other one. Other than that, you can't do it. Now, as far as the reputation, reputation in this place. So you start off at maxed out hated. Remember the fun days of running this? Oh, look, and she just got somehow some boots I didn't have. Hey, that happens every once in a while. The fun days of running this, you start off, where's her rep at with this? Classic. She's revered. So you notice that boss didn't give her any rep. She's revered. You start off at 0 out of 36,000 hated. I think it's 36, isn't it? I think so. You start off at 0 out of 36,000 hated. And so it's not that much of a rep grind, though. By the time you complete your first run of this place, you'll be about 2/3 of the way through hated, because you get usually about 1,000 or maybe 1,500 or so rep from each of the bosses, and then most of the mobs will give you rep as well. Anyway, there's so much stuff I wanted to talk about that, yeah, I decided doing a video like this was worth it because there's lots of stuff I wanted to talk about as we run through here. All right, I had to fix something on my mouse there. What was I saying? So when you come in here, there's some quest givers right here at the entrance. And there's a few things I want to talk about this too. So have to try to remind me about that. There's these quest givers, and they're right here. If you hang a left, they're in this little side chamber. Now, these guys have a couple of quests. One quest you're going to want to be familiar with is, well, this is not necessarily a guide. This is just kind of a overall, what you call it, right? Mortal Champions is the repeatable where you get rep. Each of those bosses drops a Qiraji Lord insignia, and after you're done with your run, you'll want to come turn in all those one at a time at Mortal Champions. See, she just picked one up, so I can turn this in. And then those give 500 rep, Brood, and 500 Cenarian Circle each. That's one good way to gain rep. And then the rest of the quests they have, for the most part, now, yeah, I think it's all the rest of the quests they have is for the gear. And, of course, you get the gear by turning in drops and stuff like that. And, I don't need to go through this is not a comprehensive guide on that. You can find the info out, or I can make a video on that, but I just wanted to mention that. And the reason I wanted to mention this in particular is because of certain reasons, and I'll talk about that boss when I get there. Oh, he's not going to be on the thing yet. But that boss is Visus, whatever. I can't fight him. I don't have the right things on my warrior to be able to fight him. I'll talk about him when I get there. But because I can't kill him, we won't be able to, because we're not doing a full clear, because we're doing all but him. We can't loop back around at the beginning once we finish. So if you want to turn in those Qiraji Lord insignias, the only way really, well, I guess you could find some way to die and res back at the beginning, maybe log out and wait 10 minutes or something and come back in. Or really the fastest way, honestly, is just to hearth out, fly back to Uldum, and run all the way back here, But anyway, okay. So down in here, now I forget some of the stuff that I was saying. Well, I'll kind of go back through as we go through here. Another reason I like Warrior, in particular Fury Warrior, and this is why I'm running Fury in here, is there's a few classes that can do this. Fury Warrior is definitely one of them that's good at this. One thing she's good at is Fury Warriors can spam an AoE at absolutely no cost as much as they want, which is really useful for running old stuff like this, So whenever I run old stuff on my warrior, usually I run Fury so I can spam Whirlwind. And there's several classes that have things like that, but there's classes that don't, When I run this place with my Warlock, it's actually really annoying because I'm not the most practiced with Warlock, but I don't know of any way to spam anything. It's a little more annoying. I'm always jumping around with different spells and such. Anyway, so the first boss is actually an interesting one in here. And I don't really need to talk about mechanics in this. Here, let's just mount up and go down here. But some stuff I do want to mention, like as side notes along the way. This first boss up here, it's really easy to reset this boss. This boss can get stuck in like a reset loop and not work right. So it helps to know like the original strategy of how these bosses were fought. And that is one thing I wanted to talk about in this video is the original strategy, how we used to do stuff back in the old days, walk down memory lane, if you will, and remember some of the stuff. And some of that stuff applies. So I am going to go over some of the strategies for some of these bosses, as some of that stuff does still apply. I'm picking up Scarabs, but I don't know why, because she doesn't need any of this stuff. But I'll pick up the Scarabs because I'm a pack rat, I guess. So this first boss here will reset if you do it wrong, but it's really not a big hassle. And after only a couple tries, you'd probably figure out what you did wrong. I like riding the battle tank, but I'll probably swap to a normal mount because getting dismounted every time you get hit is a little annoying. So yeah, well, I did find a couple new appearances already, which really I didn't expect. Don't bother looting the mounts because you can't, you just end up deleting them one by one, and it gets really old and annoying, so just don't loot those, obviously. All right, so this boss here, the thing with this boss is you kind of need to kill them one at a time. It wasn't a problem in the old days, yeah, because you couldn't just one-shot them, but the thing is you have to kill them one at a time. The thing is when you kill one, so yeah, this is not really needed, but it's kind of fun to remember the old days and remember stuff like that. The way these bosses work is when you kill one, and one of the others devours his body and then grows stronger, and then you kill the other, and then the last one devours his body and grows stronger. And if you kill them all at once, which again wouldn't have been possible in Classic, or even when I was doing this, and my first run of this was actually in Burning Crusade. I started running, I like running old content. It's fair to say I've been running old content ever since there was old content, because I was running this back in Burning Crusade. It still took a fair amount of people to do this. Well, so back then one-shotting this was not a thing, but now that it is, You want to kill... I kill the red one first. So just one hit and turn off my auto attack, run away. Let them eat him. I'm going to kill the other, not the blue, this one next. And then I'll kill the blue one last. Because the blue one summons adds... Oh, he's going to fear us. It's because the blue one summons adds. And if you kill the blue one second, the adds will come up. And sometimes I've had a problem where I killed the adds too fast. And it nicked the other guy. And they all died in one time. And the boss reset, if you follow my my logic there. So I killed the blue one last. That way, when the adds pop up, there's nothing left to kill. And then we have our drops here. I am here for rep, but I really don't need the other drops. So let's use a regular mount until we get to one particular part, and then I'll talk about that. So yeah, I'm just gonna be kind of talking about fun stuff, you know, as I come across it, as I remember it in here. So yeah, I started running. I didn't start raiding. I was not raiding in vanilla. I started playing at the end of vanilla, classic, and I didn't start raiding until Burning Crusade. And I was really sorry that I'd missed all of this. And so in Burning Crusade, and I was not alone, there was a lot of people, and still are people, who like to do this kind of stuff. And I like to, partly, it's not just for transmog, I like to remember all the times. Well, I didn't run this place in Classic. No, I've got tons of memories back from, you know, like 2007 in this place, which is a terribly long time ago when I think about it, you know. Really is. So let's I kind of forget where I was going with that exactly, but it's been a long time, and that's why it's fun. I guess, yeah, it's fun to run this stuff, to remember all that. Now, yeah, because my character here is revered, she's not getting any rep from these guys, so there's no reason for me, there's no reason to kill any of this stuff at all, frankly, because I'm here for rep, really, and to chill with you guys and talk about the old times here. And I like to do videos on other instances like this. Whenever I run these old places like this, just good times and stories and stuff always comes back to mind. Now, yeah, there's really nothing here. This is as simple as, you know, the bosses here have this habit. Yeah, you can't run. You can't catch them on foot. There we go. There's nothing to this one, and this one doesn't drop anything really of note that I recall. We'll move on to... Is this... Yeah, so this right here is the place where riding the battle tank really sucks. Moving through this tunnel. So this tunnel is the long, infamous Gauntlet of AQ40. Now that we're in here, we can pull up the map. So we came in about here and killed the royalty. And now we're going down this long thing down to... What's his face? Oh, the big bug, Venthyr. And then there it'll branch off. I'll show you Visus, but there's nothing we can... Actually, I'll engage Visus, and I'll show you the issue with it, because we can engage him, and then we can break free, and he'll stop aggroing us. I'll show you why we can't fight him. I'll talk all about him. And then we'll continue on through there. Fun stories of the Twin Emperors, fun stories with Cthulhu, especially fun stories regarding Cthulhu. Anyway, so this right here... So if you remember the thing with this mount, yeah, you get dismounted as soon as you get hit. Well, I'm not going to get hit. If I go in there, they're going to aggro me, dismount me, and then you are stuck walking all the way down this, getting hit and dazed all the way down this this gauntlet. And that's why I'm almost positive. It's been so long. It's been almost 15 years probably since I was first here. But I think that back in the day, these were the only mounts you could ride in here, because that's why this gauntlet was so punishing. So we're gonna get on something else. The fastest really through this, the fastest way that I can really think of through this is probably just to mount and just take the hits on your mount. If you go on foot, you're gonna get dazed, end up walking. As a warrior, I could, heroic leap. As a mage, you can blink like a couple times, but you're pretty much just stuck going slow. You're best off staying on your mount, because at high level, they won't be able to hit you, really. So you'll rarely get dazed. You won't get dismounted. You'll rarely get dazed. And this is really your best way, is just stick through it on your mount. So let's just get through this here. All right, and that's really not too bad if you stay on your mount. And then just kill Rama at the end here. All right. And I'm still dazed. Come on. It's not as bad, to be fair. It's not as bad as Blackwing Lair. And I would like to do videos going through other places such as that as well. Going through Blackwing Lair on, say, for instance, this little warrior. Oh, that's actually interesting because there's the part with all those traps, suppression traps, and on the way to that one guy. It's actually an interesting trip as a warrior because you can charge here and there to get through. But anyway, so this guy here is really nothing special, obviously. I don't think he drops anything of note either, nothing that I can recall. And he's gonna... I remember the ones that drop stuff that's... you always remember the bosses that drop the drops that are really hard to get or whatever, you know what I mean? And that would be the next boss. Princess Huhuran is where we're headed next, and she drops the Kiraji bindings of command / dominance, depending on which class you are. So they're kind of like the tier tokens from, if you recall, I don't know, the way tier tokens work has just changed so much. The pieces here are similar to the tier tokens in Burning Crusade in that, except here there's only two kinds. In the case of Princess Huhuran up here, she drops the bindings of dominance or command. And there were, 9 classes, I think, in Classic WoW. So there was only 2. Basically 2 tokens. And, well, anyway, the thing with this, though, to get your shoulders, you had to have a particular one of those, either bindings of dominance or bindings of command. And Princess Huhuran up here, well, I don't know how else to say it other than this is her right here, and then, well, Aru and Cthulhu, because those are the ones that drop the either or tokens. I don't need the gear. It's no big deal. It's just, I remember that from here, having to come back week after week because this boss kept dropping the wrong darn token. She drops the command, and that is what my warrior needs, is command. But we already have the shoulders. And then if you look on here, the Twin Emperors, Vechlor and Velklinash, they have a similar drop, but because there's 2 of them, you always get what you need from them. And then Aru up here, he drops either the intact hide or the skin of the Great Worm or whatever. And it's another thing where you may or may not get your, I forget what piece that goes to. And then Cthulhu, we'll talk about Cthulhu when I get to him. It's the same thing with him. The either or drop. And I guess because this used to be 40 people now, like I said, I never came back here when it was 40 people. But when I was coming here in Burning Crusade, it took a lot of people. And in a way, it was almost kind of harder in Burning Crusade. Those of you who ran this old content back when you used to have more people may know what I'm talking about. In a way, it could be more difficult because, okay, so in Burning Crusade, there was far fewer people who were interested in this. More people were interested in raiding Burning Crusade content. Less people were interested in this. So, but you still needed 10, 15, I don't know. I've never been here. The lowest number of people I ever had in here. In Wrath of the Lich King, I remember coming through here with 11 people once in Wrath. In Burning Crusade, you probably would have had to have 15 or more people. So what I mean is to find 15 or more people who are interested in an old raid, and back in Burning Crusade, you still had to know all of these mechanics to find those people who wanted to do it, and were available and knew the mechanics and took it seriously, which was a real problem. This boss right here, Twin Emperors, Velklinash and Vechlor, this was one huge bottleneck to old world raiding back in Burning Crusade, Wrath. Burning Crusade and Wrath, these guys were definitely still a huge problem. And I realized I totally skipped Viscidus back there. We'll go back and talk about him as long as I'm talking about mechanics. This was one huge bottleneck in a lot of old raids was mechanics, and these guys were infamous. So here's the way they work. Velklinash here is melee. He does melee damage, and he can only, well, basically, the guy with the sword, Velklinash, he can only be hurt by melee. And Vechlor can only be hurt by magic. Kind of an interesting thing, but not why this was so hard. You have to keep them separated. Unlike other pairs of bosses you see, they don't have to be killed at the same time, because if one dies, the other dies. But, so that's unlike most bosses you would see like this. They don't have to die at the same time, at least not that I recall, and definitely not now. But you have to keep them separated. They always try to run together, and you have to keep them separated, because if you guys remember, if they got within like 30 yards of each other, they would heal up so fast, it was supernatural. It was ridiculous. and this was a huge bottleneck doing this in Wrath of the Lich King, was people not taking it seriously, didn't pay attention to crap, and this fight would just be very difficult. It was hard to find people to get past this boss and further on. The next boss is nothing, but these guys, well, now it's a joke. So I'm melee, so I'm going to go to Venthyr here and tap him on his ankle, and they're going to drop dead. Yeah, it's super easy now. We don't have to pay attention to this stuff. Oh, and the Anubisath come after us. Usually I kill them, so... But... Oh, they are giving us rep. You know, those bugs at the start weren't, so I wasn't paying attention, but those guys were giving us rep. Well, it's okay, because 90% of our rep is going to come from turning into insignias anyway. That's really negligible rep right there. We'll get thousands at the end for turning in the thingies. So these guys, they have it drops too, like right here, the circlet, but Veclanash drops his, and then Veclor drops his, so I'm going to run over there and grab his stuff. So this fight was interesting. I remember having a lot of trouble with this, getting here. It must have been one raid in particular I remember having trouble with, because people not taking it seriously. Every time these guys would get together, they would heal up so fast. It was ridiculous. All right, so Viscidus, well... How far do I have to run back? Quite a ways. And so I'll just keep going then. So, but I'll talk about him. Viscidus is the big slime boss, and when you get to Ahn'Qiraj, that big cockroach-looking thing, if you hang a left, you go through some little windy, skinny walkway, catwalk thing, and you get to Viscidus. He's the big slime, and the thing with him is, the reason I can't kill him, damage doesn't matter with him. With him, there's two things that happen with him. First, you have to freeze him. He's a slime, so first you have to freeze him and then shatter him, basically. And once you freeze him and shatter him a few times, then he dies. Well, in order to freeze him, you have to hit him with frost magic. So damage doesn't matter. It's just hit him with enough frost spells and he will freeze. And then once he freezes, you have to hit him with melee attacks. Again, damage doesn't matter. It's the amount of attacks in a specified, time, basically before he thaws. Once he freezes, before he thaws, you have to hit him rapidly with melee attacks to shatter him, and then that does damage to him, right? There's bosses that it kind of reminds me of that one boss, the first boss in Siege of Orgrimmar, similar-ish, right? He breaks up, you kill his pieces, he comes back together. Immersius, yeah, kind of like Immersius in that way, except not, right? Well, what you need for him is you need frost damage, but you also need really, really fast melee damage. I could do it on my warrior here if we had some kind of, I think frost oil on your weapons might work. I think there's ways to do that. You could possibly do it as a frost death knight. I say frost death knight because you're going to want to dual wield to do as much fast melee damage as possible. You could probably do it as a frost death knight. Don't know. The last time I did Viscidus, honestly, was probably back in Wrath of the Lich King, and I remember we did it with 3 people. We had a mage, Death Knight, and a paladin. Now, these guys will pretty much always come. There's no way, I don't think there's any way past these enemies, unless, maybe if you stealth past them or something, they always seem to aggro me. Oh, anyway, so that's kind of the thing on Viscidus and why I'm not doing him. Also, luckily, he doesn't drop anything you would need for transmog, at least nothing that I need for transmog. If we click on him, he just drops, actually, he has some gloves they don't have the appearance of. I mean, there is that. But you're going to have to find someone else to come with you or get on Reddit and find some guide or something to do it. There's definitely ways to solo Viscidus. I just can't do it. And I don't bother with it. It's not worth messing with. And so I skip him. But because we skipped him, we're not going to be able to get back around to the beginning at the end of the dungeon. So, yeah, you just got to hearth out and then port back to Oldham and fly back. And him up here, and he's dead. And this guy drops the... sometimes you got to come back around for this guy because I always seem to get the wrong thing. Yeah, skin of the Great Sandworm or Baru's Hide or something it's called. I forget. Now, next up is the last boss, Cthulhu, one of the old gods. Cthulhu is one of the... Yeah, he's one of the original old gods of Azeroth that was locked away by the Titan Forged, tens of thousands or millions of years ago. I don't know exactly when, millions of years ago, the Titan Forged locked Cthulhu away down here. And, that reminds me, I was going to talk about opening the gates of Ahn'Qiraj, because that's definitely a fun memory that I have, and I will address that. I often reminisce about that. I said something about that at the beginning of the video, and yes, I do want to. So, anyway, Cthulhu, the boss so hard that Blizzard had to nerf him before anyone could even kill him. Yeah, that is true, and I'll talk more about Cthulhu in a second here. But as we ride over to him, so for those of you who didn't play back in Classic, Ahn'Qiraj was like a time in history. It's something that I remember when I started playing. Okay, so Ahn'Qiraj was not a place you could just run into. Like all raids back then, you had to be attuned to. Like all the way through Burning Crusade, you had to attune yourself to run raids. They did away with that, I guess, with Wrath of the Lich King. But all through Burning Crusade, through Classic and BC, you had to be attuned to run raids. And Ahn'Qiraj had the most bitchin' of all of those, because it wasn't even just attunement to run it. The entire server had to work together in this war effort. I forget what it was called, like the Qiraji war effort or something like that. Now, when I started playing, right at the end of vanilla, the server I was on, that was still going on. There's a lot of reasons I have very fond memories of this place. When I started playing the game, the Qiraji war effort thing was just a thing that was going on. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I'm going the right way, right? Yeah. I'm just going to run here because I love reminiscing about this. If you guys know what I'm talking about, yeah. For those of you who don't, so to open this place up, it wasn't just attunement. The whole server had to work together. And there were special NPCs in the capital cities where you would turn in cloth or ore or this or that and contribute to the war effort. It was like a time in history. Like unlocking this place was like being part of lore in WoW. Like, that time when the gates were unlocked. It was like when certain things in history happened. Like I remember where I was when the gates to Ahn'Qiraj unlocked. I was questing in Desolus, and I can't remember the guy's name. It's on the tip of my tongue, but I remember where I was. I remember seeing the guy. He was an undead rogue, I think, on my server at the time. He was an undead rogue. I remember I saw him in Orgrimmar later after that, and I'll never forget that because he was sitting in Orgrimmar on his mount. Anyway, so it was a huge war effort that the whole server had to work together towards. And when I started playing, it was just something that was going on, and I thought it was just the game. You contribute extra stuff to the war effort. That's what I thought it was. Well, then one day I'm questing in Desolus. I was level 30 something questing in Desolus, and this message comes across the screen, and it said so and so. He gets the title of Scarab Lord. Whoever rings the gong gets the title Scarab Lord. It said something like Scarab Lord so and so has opened the gates to Ahn'Qiraj, whatever. And everyone in the server knew who the guy was. Like during that time, he was like the celebrity because he was the only. And you got to remember, back then people didn't have titles, except for PvP. There was PvP titles. I'm going to stop right here because Cthulhu is right around this corner, and this is some interesting stuff. Back then, in vanilla, the only titles there were, to my knowledge, were PvP titles. And in Burning Crusade, now everyone has titles. I don't show one because I don't, but I've got plenty of titles. I got a few. But back during Burning Crusade, there was PvP titles. There was Champion of the Naru, that's it. Champion of the Naru and Hand of Adal. Champion of the Naru was for Tier 5 attunement, and Hand of Adal was for Tier 6 attunement. Outside of that, and some PvP stuff from vanilla, there were no titles. So when you saw someone and in front of their name it said Scarab Lord, and he was riding around on one of these mounts, except it wasn't this color, it was black, I think. If I recall correctly, it was black. Anyway, it was just freaking cool. So that's some story for any of you who weren't there, and any of you who were, remember those times. And that's one reason I like to run stuff like this. I get all those just cool memories of that kind of stuff. And now, speaking of memories, do you guys remember running into Cthulhu and doing this and then wiping an entire 40-man raid? So, I'm sure if you look, there's videos of it on YouTube.
Go, Jason. No. Move away. Move away. Oh, fuck.
And if I can find one, then I will have put one in this for sure. Cthulhu has this attack, and he was famous for this. People would, raids would come in here unknowingly, cross this barrier, wipe the entire raid, and some people would just simply troll their raid, and certainly I knew people who would do this kind of thing. These are the same kind of people, you guys know the ones I'm talking about, the kind of people who drop a mole machine right on a boss as everyone's trying to loot him, and then everyone gets teleported to Blackrock Depths. Yeah, that kind of person. The kind of person who would troll a raid by running out here and wiping the entire raid. Because Cthulhu has this green eye laser attack, and what it does, this was devastating. Even back in Burning Crusade, it was devastating, and probably even in Wrath. It's like chain lightning, but it, instead of weakening as it goes, it amplifies and multiplies. And by the time it hits the last person in the raid, that green beam jumping between everyone, it's going to hit for like 1 million damage or something, if I recall. But it was something and a half. Now, fighting this guy now, there is... I'm trying to like tell you guys like as much as I can, and as much as all the memories that are coming back at the same time. I'm trying to keep this moving. Fighting this guy now, there is one thing to remember. This is the one boss in here that will wipe you without a second thought, and you may not know what you did wrong. So if you don't know how to fight Cthulhu, this is the one boss in here, beside Visus, that you really have to know how to fight. That said, Visus won't kill you. You just can't kill him. Cthulhu here will straight up wipe you without a second thought. The trick to Cthulhu is he's basically, for all intents and purposes, right now in Dragonflight, he's got basically 2 phases. There's the first phase where we one-shot him, and then the second phase where we one-shot him. Right? Yeah. But in between that, what he's going to do is, when we hit him, it's going to one-shot the first phase, and the second phase starts. The second phase, he's going to take damage very, very slowly. You can burn through it. I burned through it with my Destruction Warlock. She burned through it. Which doesn't usually happen. He takes damage very slowly. At that time, tentacles come up and they will drag you down underneath them. And then when you're down there inside of them, you have to kill the 2 tentacles down there and then come back up, which I will show you. And then when you come back up, you one-shot him. Well, what's so hard about that? What's so hard about that is it's easy to accidentally wipe yourself, because the moment that the second phase begins, you must stop all DPS on him, because here's the thing. If you are inside of him when he dies, you wipe flat out. So like, if you didn't know what you were doing, if you came through here on a level 70 and didn't know what was going on, and you hit him with something that had a dot attached to it, that's why I say that. Don't put dots on him. It's really easy to do that. Like with my Warlock, I would come in and throw fire at him, not even think about it, and then I'm like, oh crap. Because as soon as the second phase ticks over, if he sucks you down inside and that dot ticks, you're alone here. There's no one else top side. Poof, you're dead. Right? So that said, this is very simple. I just wanted to cover that. But this is very super simple. We just charge in, hit him. Second phase starts, just no dots. So that means also if you're an arms warrior, watch out for your mastery, your arms mastery, which will put a bleed on him.
I need to target something first.
I'll just wait and get sucked down in, I guess, or I'll just hit him a couple times. I don't want to accidentally dot him. Well, let's just fight him and hope that doesn't happen. There we go. He's going to suck us down in. Okay. Super easy. Once you're down here, we'll just hit these guys. And then run on the little magic poo elevator. And then one-shot him once we get up. It's just really embarrassing dying to an old raid boss like this. So that's all there is to that. You get tons of rep. Sorry for the long explanation, but I figure there's probably some level 70s who would want to come through here, do this, wipe, and have no clue what happened or why they wiped, and probably wouldn't want to read through the old strategy to figure out why and what they did wrong. And that kind of information is also notoriously hard to find on Reddit. If you look up any kind of boss strategy, there's Husk of the Old God or Carapace. We got the Husk. It's notoriously hard to find up-to-date stuff on WoW. If you look up Cthulhu strategies or how to kill him or how to solo him, you're going to find information on how to solo him from every expansion for the last 15 years. Nothing's going to be relevant. So I thought I'd put that out there. That is all you have to do. Of course, right now it's Dragonflight. Someone may find this video in the next expansion, which is coming later this year, or another one, and be like, well, that doesn't apply at level 80. But for right now, just make sure you don't dot them, long story short. So, now we're here at these guys. These guys are much like the guys at the beginning, except these guys don't offer... They have different quests. Instead of mortal champions and instead of the gear, these guys have quests for the armaments and the regalia. And recall at the beginning of the video, I grabbed the armaments and 3 elementium ingots, and I said I'll need these later, and I'll talk about this later. Yeah, I'm going to turn these in. I don't need the appearance. Actually, I might. I've done this on a Warlock, but not my Warrior, so she might get something different than my Warlock got. I might be able to use the appearance. Where's the ingots? I just want to pull the stuff aside so I can show you what I was talking about. And I totally lost them because they look like the scarabs. Yeah, I lost them in my bags. Oh, there they are. Yeah, look at them. They kind of do look like the scarabs. So these quests here, the reason I'm doing them is for rep, is what I was trying to get at. I don't think I need the appearances. But so here we have quests for the armaments and the regalia. Now they're going to require said items, which drop throughout the raid. I brought 1 regalia and 3 elementium ingots because that's what the quest requires. The elementium ingots sounds like something super archaic and hard to get and this and that. They're really not. They drop like candy in Blackwing Lair. I turned in 2 of these on my warlock last week, and I still had 3 more to bring with little Tiger Cat here to, in fact, I often don't even loot in Blackwing Lair. So the trash mobs in Blackwing Lair, all those big hordes of goblins and elf and orc warlocks that come in big packs. Always, if you want elementium ingots, loot those guys because they drop from them a lot. So here we have the regalia and we have armament, right? Nope, it's regalia. Well, it looks like an armament, but it's regalia. So we're going to turn this quest and get a Blessed Karaji Warhammer. Yeah, so she gets different gear than my warlock got.
May your dreams be peaceful.
And that gives us 500 rep. It's something, and yeah, I already had the appearance of this. Oh, that's a cool looking mace. I mean, if you don't have the appearance, that's a cool looking mace. That is kind of cool. You know, I like the appearances of a lot of older stuff, if you ask my opinion. A lot of the newer stuff just gets so absolutely over the top, epic, and insane looking. You got to love the classic, you know, tier 1. Okay, in the Warriors case, tier 2 is a bit over the top, but the tier 1, the tier 2, and the this right here, which back in the day was, people called it tier 2.5. This was between, you know, this was after Blackwing Lair, but before Naxxramas, so people called it tier 2.5. And I mentioned something about, I'm going to go ahead and hearth out of here, I guess, and work my way back to the beginning. There's still a couple things I wanted to say. Actually, you know what? I was going to hearth, but no, Valdrakken is an absolute nightmare on this server, so I'm going to go to Dalaran, make it easier. So I mentioned something about Cthulhu being so incredibly hard. Well, fun fact, when Cthulhu first came out, when this raid first came out, and I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong, patch 1.1, or was it, I changed my mounts, hang on, get rid of the Karaji battle tank. It was like 1.10 or 1.11, something like that. It was like 1.1, you know, whatever it was, I forget precisely. But whenever Ahn'Qiraj came out, no one could beat Cthulhu. Cthulhu was literally too hard to beat. And so Blizzard went in and nerfed him. And then, if I'm not mistaken, like 40 minutes later or something came the world first kill of Cthulhu. Yeah, the world first kill of Cthulhu was like 40 minutes after Blizzard went in and nerfed him. So, you know, like what I was talking about earlier with the... and I probably shouldn't have wasted all my vigor just to get to the portal faster, but I did. Where am I flying? Oh, yeah, over here. Yeah, when I mentioned that laser beam nuking entire raids, look, I didn't fight him in Classic. I did fight him in Burning Crusade and Wrath, and he was still hard. That was so long ago, I really can't remember. And I wasn't doing it on like a real rating basis, but I know that, you know, he was hard. My first serious rating that I did was in Burning Crusade. My first progression rating that I did was in Burning Crusade. And my mount, oh, there we go, didn't want to fly. And we are going this way? Yeah. So I'm going to fly back here. So yeah, so once you hearth out, you just kind of need to fly back unless you have a way to kill Visus. And if I remember correctly, you kill him and... Am I headed the right way? Yeah, more or less. Yeah, you head northwest, you'll be flying there. If I remember correctly, it's just a matter of... There is a way back to the beginning, but only if you kill all the bosses, because I didn't doing it this way. So I'm going to go back here, and it's the quest Mortal Champions. Just... Oh yeah, I already showed you that at the beginning. turn that in, and well, there's AQ up there. Well, guys, thanks so much for watching. I plan to do more of these videos. Look, it's not scripted, you know, just candid, not scripted, just talking and remembering some of those, all the cool stuff from the old days. And a lot of those raids have interesting stories, and not just lore, but cool stories too. And I do want to do videos on lore, because I really love the lore of World of Warcraft. I have for a long time. I enjoy reading the books and learning the lore and stuff like that. And there's really so much of it here. But, you know, as much as that, just running these raids, I always remember all these, a lot of them, there was crazy stories or things that happened or people I used to run with who did this or that, or just crazy mechanics, you know, basically the stuff I was talking about with you here. There's always just interesting stuff to remember in these raids. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video a lot, and tell me what you think. And of course, I'll still have all the content I usually have on this channel, but World of Warcraft, it's a game, though I've played it for a very long time, I never did post any videos of it on the channel here, and I figured I could post some here and there while keeping with my regular content. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm going to turn in, get some more rep. And how is our rep? Yeah, I'm still going to be revered. I'll get exalted one of these days, and that'll be another rep on the thing. Guys, I'll catch you later. Thanks a lot.